The day Angela's father announced me as his new business partner, I watched her face drain of all color. She stood there in that champagne dress she used to say made her look cheap, the one I bought her for our first anniversary when I was still working 2 jobs just to afford dinner at a decent restaurant. Her hand trembled around her wine glass. 3 years ago, she left me standing outside her apartment building in the rain, mascara running down her face as she told me she couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't be with someone who had nothing. Couldn't introduce me to her father. Couldn't keep pretending we had a future. I remember how she looked at me that night, like I was something pathetic she needed to shake off. Now here we were, in her father's mansion, surrounded by business executives and investors, and she was staring at me like I'd risen from the dead. Mr. Thompson, her father, had his hand on my shoulder, introducing me to everyone as the youngest partner his company had ever signed. The golden boy who turned a failing tech startup into a multimillion-dollar acquisition. Angela's current boyfriend, some trust fund kid named Marcus, whispered something in her ear. She didn't even look at him. Her eyes were fixed on me. I could see the questions spinning behind those eyes, the same eyes that used to look at me with something I stupidly believed was love. When did this happen? How did this happen? Why didn't I know? The answer was simple. While she was posting photos with Marcus at yacht parties and charity galas, I was working 16-hour days. While she was living the life she always wanted with someone who could actually afford to give it to her, I was building something from nothing. And now her father, the same man she said would never respect someone like me, had just made me his equal. The irony tasted better than the expensive whiskey in my glass. Mr. Thompson was still talking, something about innovation and fresh perspectives, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching Angela excuse herself from Marcus, watching her walk toward the bathroom with that careful smile she wore when she was about to fall apart. I knew because I'd seen that smile before. Right before she broke my heart and walked away. We met during freshman year of college. In the most unremarkable way possible. I was sitting in the library at 2 in the morning, drowning in accounting textbooks and cheap coffee, when Angela slid into the chair across from me. She didn't ask if the seat was taken. She just sat down, opened her laptop, and started typing. For 3 hours. We didn't say a word to each other. When the library started closing, she finally looked up at me and said, "Do you always study this late?" I told her only when I had exams worth half my grade. She smiled. Me too. That was it. That was how it started. Within a month, we were inseparable. She was majoring in art history, which her father hated, and I was studying business, which my single mother had sacrificed everything for me to do. We were both trying to prove something to someone. Angela was beautiful in a way that made people stop and stare. Long dark hair, sharp features, the kind of confidence that came from growing up knowing you were wanted, but what I fell for wasn't her looks. It was the way she laughed at stupid jokes, the way she remembered tiny details about conversations we'd had weeks ago, the way she looked at me like I was the only person in the room. She never mentioned her family much. I knew her father was in business, something corporate and important, but she always changed the subject when I asked. I assumed they weren't close. I should have known better. My life back then was simple. I lived in a cramped apartment with 2 roommates who never cleaned up after themselves. I worked part-time at a campus bookstore and did freelance web design on weekends. Money was always tight. There were nights I chose between buying groceries or paying for the bus. Angela never seemed to care. She wore thrift store clothes to our dates. She insisted on splitting bills. She never made me feel like I wasn't enough. For 2 years, we were happy. We studied together, explored the city on weekends, stayed up until dawn talking about everything and nothing. She introduced me to classic films and obscure artists. I taught her how to code and showed her the neighborhoods I grew up in. She met my mother during sophomore year. Mom made her favorite soup, and Angela sat at our tiny kitchen table asking questions about the old country, about Mom's journey to America, genuinely interested in stories most people found boring. After she left, my mother smiled at me and said, "She's good for you." I thought so too. But I never met her family. Every time I suggested it, Angela found an excuse. Her father was traveling. Her mother was busy with charity work. The timing wasn't right. I told myself it didn't matter. Looking back, I was an idiot. Things started changing during junior year. Angela's spending habits shifted. She stopped wearing thrift store finds and started showing up in designer clothes. She traded her beat-up laptop for the newest model. She moved out of the dorms into a luxury apartment downtown. When I asked about it, she said her father had increased her allowance. I felt something twist in my stomach, but I didn't push. Then came the comments. Small things at first. She mentioned how nice it would be to eat somewhere other than cheap noodle shops. How her friends were all dating guys with cars and career prospects. How exhausting it was watching me stress over money all the time. I started picking up extra shifts. I took on more freelance projects. I was sleeping 4 hours a night, trying to be someone who could give her the life she was clearly starting to want. It still wasn't enough. One night, we were supposed to have dinner for our 2-year anniversary. I'd saved up for weeks to take her somewhere nice, a real restaurant with cloth, napkins, and a wine list. She canceled an hour before, said something came up with her family. The next day, I saw photos on social media. Angela, at some charity gala, wearing a dress that cost more than my rent, smiling next to people in tuxedos and evening gowns. I felt stupid for being hurt. It was her life. Her family. I had no right to be jealous. But when she finally called me back 3 days later, she didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She just asked if I was mad. I told her no. Another lie I told myself. Senior year was when everything fell apart. Angela started spending more time with her family. More events. More obligations. More reasons why we couldn't see each other. When we did meet up, there was distance between us that wasn't there before. She checked her phone constantly. She talked about people I didn't know, places I'd never been. I tried to hold on. I planned dates. I showed up at her apartment with flowers. I told her I loved her. She said it back, but her eyes were somewhere else. The night she ended it, I knew something was wrong the moment she opened the door. She'd been crying. I thought someone had died. Instead, she told me we needed to talk, and those 4 words destroyed everything I thought I knew about us. She said she couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't be with someone who had no future. Couldn't keep living in 2 different worlds. I asked her what that meant. She looked at me like I was supposed to understand, like it was obvious. Travis, I love you, but love isn't enough. I need stability. I need someone who can give me the life I'm used to. Someone my family will respect. I told her I was working on it. I had plans. I was going to graduate top of my class. Land a good job, build something. She shook her head. That's years away. I can't wait that long. Then she told me her father had introduced her to someone. Marcus. From a good family. Established career. Everything she needed. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. So that's it? You're leaving me for someone with money? She started crying again, but she didn't deny it. I'm sorry, Travis. I really am. But I have to think about my future. I left that night and didn't look back. For months, I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't focus on anything except the fact that the person I'd loved for 3 years had chosen money over me. My mother told me it was for the best. That if Angela couldn't see my worth, she didn't deserve me. But it didn't feel like the best. It felt like dying. The first few months after the breakup were the worst of my life. I threw myself into my final semester with the kind of desperate intensity that scared my roommates. I stopped going out, stopped answering calls, stopped pretending I was okay. Every time I saw a couple holding hands on campus, I felt sick. Every time someone mentioned Angela's name, I had to leave the room. My mother called every week, worried. She could hear it in my voice, the way I'd broken into pieces. She kept telling me that pain was temporary, that I'd heal, that someday I'd look back and understand why this happened. I didn't believe her. Graduation came and went. I got my degree with honors, but standing there in that auditorium, all I could think about was how Angela and I used to talk about this day. How we'd promised to celebrate together. How she'd said she'd be proud of me. She wasn't there. Marcus was in the audience, sitting with Angela and what I assumed was her family. They were dressed like they were attending a wedding, all expensive fabrics and practiced smiles. I saw her father for the first time that day. Mr. Thompson. Tall, silver-haired, the kind of man who commanded attention just by existing. Angela was sitting next to Marcus, but she was looking at me. Our eyes met for maybe 3 seconds before I looked away. That was the last time I saw her for 3 years. After graduation, I did something crazy. I took every penny I'd saved, maxed out 2 credit cards, and invested in a friend's tech startup. It was reckless. Stupid. The kind of decision desperate people make when they have nothing left to lose. The startup was developing software for small businesses, something to streamline inventory management and financial tracking. My friend Harry needed someone who understood both the business side and the technical side. I became that person. We worked out of Harry's garage for the first year. 18-hour days. Ramen noodles for dinner. Cold showers because we couldn't afford to heat the water. There were nights I wanted to quit. Nights I wondered if Angela had been right. If I was chasing a fantasy. If I should have just taken some corporate job and accepted mediocrity. But every time I thought about giving up, I remembered the look on her face when she told me I wasn't enough. So I kept going. The first version of our software was buggy and barely functional, but a few small businesses took a chance on us. Then a few more. Word spread slowly. By the end of year 2, we had a real office. By year 3, we had investors interested. Harry was the face of the company, the charismatic one who could pitch to anyone. I was the strategist, the one who built the systems and made the numbers work. We made a good team. Then came the acquisition offer. Thompson Industries wanted to buy us out. They saw potential in what we'd built, wanted to integrate it into their corporate portfolio. The offer was more money than I'd ever imagined seeing in my lifetime. Harry was ready to take it and retire at 30. He'd earned it. He'd risked everything just like I had. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was connected to Angela somehow. Thompson Industries. Her last name was Thompson. I did some research. Her father, Richard Thompson, was the CEO. The same man I'd seen at graduation, the one who'd decided I wasn't good enough for his daughter. I told Harry about it one night, over cheap beer, the kind we still drank even though we could afford better now. So what do we do? He asked. I stared at my bottle for a long time. We take the meeting. Harry raised an eyebrow. You sure? This could get messy. I nodded. Yeah. I'm sure. The day of the meeting, I wore the nicest suit I owned. It still wasn't as nice as the ones the Thompson Industries executives were wearing, but I didn't care. We sat in a conference room on the 40th floor, overlooking the city. Harry did most of the talking at first, walking through our pitch, our numbers, our vision. Mr. Thompson listened carefully, asking sharp questions, clearly someone who knew exactly what he was looking at. Then he turned to me. And you are? Travis, I said. Chief Operating Officer. He studied me for a moment, and I wondered if he recognized me. If Angela had ever mentioned my name. If he knew I was the poor boyfriend his daughter had thrown away. His expression gave nothing away. Impressive work, he said, finally. You've built something valuable here. Thank you, sir. He leaned back in his chair. I'm not interested in just buying your software. I want to bring you both on board. Integration, partnerships. You'd continue running operations. But with our resources behind you. Harry and I exchanged looks. That's not what we discussed. Harry said carefully. Mr. Thompson smiled. I know, but I didn't get where I am by thinking small. You two have potential. I want to invest in that. Over the next few weeks, we negotiated terms. It wasn't a buyout anymore. It was a partnership. Equal stakes. Full control over our division. Access to Thompson Industries network and capital. It was everything we'd been working toward and more. The contracts were signed on a Tuesday afternoon. Mr. Thompson shook my hand and said, "Welcome to the family." I wondered if he'd still say that when he found out about Angela and me. The celebration party was scheduled for the following month. A formal event at Mr. Thompson's estate. Investors. Executives. Partners. Everyone who mattered. Harry was excited. He kept talking about finally being able to afford a decent apartment, maybe even a car that didn't break down every other week. I couldn't focus on any of that. All I could think about was seeing Angela again. 3 years had passed. 3 years of building myself into someone worthy. 3 years of proving that I was more than the broke college kid she'd left behind. Part of me wanted her to see what she'd given up. Part of me wanted her to feel even a fraction of the pain she'd caused me. But another part, the part I didn't want to acknowledge, just wanted to know if she ever thought about me. If she ever regretted her choice. If money had really been worth it. The night before the party, I stood in my new apartment, the one I could finally afford, and looked at myself in the mirror. I'd changed, filled out, carried myself differently. I wasn't the desperate kid anymore, the one who would have done anything to make her stay. I was someone else now. Someone she didn't know. And tomorrow, I'd find out if that mattered at all. The morning of the party, I woke up at 5 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario in my head. What I'd say. How I'd act. Whether I'd pretend I didn't know her or acknowledge our past. Harry called around noon, asking if I wanted to drive together. I told him I'd meet him there. Truth was, I needed the time alone, needed to get my head straight before walking into that house. I spent 2 hours getting ready, which was ridiculous. I'd never cared that much about my appearance before. But today felt different. Today felt like it mattered. The suit I chose was custom-tailored, dark navy, the kind that cost more than my entire wardrobe used to. I'd bought it specifically for important meetings, but wearing it now felt like armor. Like I was preparing for battle. When I pulled up to the Thompson estate, I had to stop myself from turning around and driving away. The house was massive. Not just big, but obscenely wealthy. The kind of place you saw in magazines, with manicured gardens, and a circular driveway that could fit 20 cars. This was what Angela had grown up with. This was the world she'd chosen over me. I parked and sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to remember how to breathe. You're not that person anymore, I told myself. You're here as an equal. You earned this. But walking up those steps, I felt 17 again. Small. Inadequate. Like I was about to be told I didn't belong. The door opened before I could knock. A woman in catering uniform smiled and gestured me inside. The foyer alone was bigger than my old apartment. Marble floors. Crystal chandelier. Art that probably cost more than my college tuition. I heard voices coming from the main room, laughter and conversation, the sound of people who'd never worried about money a day in their lives. Then I saw her. Angela was standing near the windows, champagne glass in hand, wearing that dress. The one I'd bought her 3 years ago when I could barely afford it. The one she'd said made her look cheap. She was wearing it. My heart stopped. She looked older. More polished. Her hair was styled differently, makeup perfect, but underneath all that, she was still the same person I'd loved. The same person who'd destroyed me. Marcus was beside her, hand on her lower back, saying something that made the group around them laugh. He looked exactly like I'd imagined. Tall, clean-cut, expensive watch, the kind of guy who'd never struggled for anything. The kind of guy Angela's father would approve of. I must have been staring because Harry appeared next to me and whispered, "You good?" "No," I said. "But let's do this anyway." Mr. Thompson found us within minutes. He was good at that, working a room, making everyone feel important. He introduced us to investors and executives, talking up our success story, the scrappy startup that made it big. People were impressed. They shook our hands, asked questions, treated us like we mattered. It should have felt good. Instead, I felt hollow. Because the only person whose opinion I cared about hadn't even looked at me yet. Then Mr. Thompson called everyone to attention. He stood at the front of the room, glass raised, and started talking about innovation and partnership, and the future of Thompson Industries. That's when he mentioned my name. "I'd like you all to meet Travis, our newest partner and the strategic mind behind one of the most promising integrations we've ever done." Everyone turned to look at me. Including Angela. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Her champagne glass slipped in her hand. Marcus steadied it, whispering something, but she didn't respond. She just stared at me like I was a ghost. I forced myself to smile, to nod, to accept the congratulations from strangers who had no idea what this moment meant. But inside, I was falling apart. Because seeing her face, seeing the shock and confusion, and something that looked almost like grief, brought everything back. All the nights I'd cried over her. All the times I'd wondered if I'd ever be good enough. All the pain I'd buried under work and ambition and pretending I'd moved on. I hadn't moved on. I'd just gotten better at lying to myself. The rest of the evening blurred together. People talked to me. I responded. I played the part of the successful businessman who had it all together. But I couldn't stop watching Angela. She'd excused herself from Marcus and disappeared toward the back of the house. I saw her go, saw the careful way she smiled before leaving. The same smile she used to wear when she was about to break down. I should have stayed where I was. Should have let her deal with whatever she was feeling on her own. Instead, I followed her. I found her in a hallway near the back terrace, standing with her back to me, shoulders shaking. She was crying. For a moment, I just stood there, watching her fall apart, feeling something twist in my chest that I didn't want to name. Then she turned around and saw me. Her makeup was ruined. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. She looked nothing like the polished woman from earlier. She looked like the girl I used to know. "Travis," she whispered. "Angela." We stood there in silence, 3 years of unspoken words hanging between us. She wiped at her face with trembling hands. "When did this happen?" she asked. "How? Does it matter?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. I don't understand. You were nobody. You had nothing. How are you here?" The words hit harder than she probably intended. "I worked," I said quietly. "I built something. I became the person you said I could never be." Her face crumpled. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? She took a step toward me, and I instinctively stepped back. Travis, please. I need to explain. There's nothing to explain. You made your choice 3 years ago. You don't understand. My father. He had expectations. I couldn't just date whoever I wanted. There were rules. Responsibilities. So you chose money over me. I get it. That's not fair. I laughed, and it came out bitter. Fair? You want to talk about fair, Angela? I loved you. I would have done anything for you. And you threw me away like I was nothing. I didn't throw you away. I was trying to protect you. From what? From my world, from my father. From all of this. She gestured around us, at the mansion, the wealth, the suffocating expectations. You would have hated it, Travis. You would have resented me. I did what I thought was right. By breaking my heart. She started crying harder. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I think about you every day. I regret it every day. But you're still with Marcus. She didn't respond. You're still living the life you wanted. So tell me, Angela. What exactly do you regret? She looked at me with those eyes I used to dream about, full of pain and something that looked like love. I regret letting you go. Her hand reached for mine, but I pulled away. It's too late, I said. Is it? The question hung in the air between us. From inside the house, I heard Harry calling my name. The party was still going. People were probably wondering where I was. I turned to leave, but Angela grabbed my sleeve. Please don't walk away. Not again. I'm not the one who walked away, I said. You are. Then I left her standing there in that hallway, crying in a dress I'd bought her when I still believed love was enough. I made it through the rest of the party on autopilot. Harry knew something was wrong but didn't push. He covered for me when I disappeared for 20 minutes, made excuses when I couldn't focus on conversations. By the time we left, it was past midnight, and I felt like I'd aged 10 years. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Text after text from a number I didn't have saved but recognized immediately. Angela. The messages started apologetic. Then, desperate. Then, angry. You can't just ignore me. We need to talk. You owe me that much. I didn't owe her anything. I blocked the number and tried to move on. Work became my escape again. Harry and I were in meetings constantly, integrating our systems with Thompson Industries, navigating corporate politics, learning how to operate at this level. Mr. Thompson seemed impressed with how quickly I adapted. He started pulling me into bigger decisions, asking my opinion on strategy, treating me like someone whose judgment he trusted. It was surreal. 3 years ago, I wasn't good enough to date his daughter. Now I was good enough to help run his company. I wondered if he knew. If Angela had ever told him about me. 2 weeks after the party, I found out. Mr. Thompson called me into his office. It was late afternoon, that golden hour when the light coming through the windows made everything look softer than it was. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I sat. He studied me for a long moment, expression unreadable. My daughter tells me you two have history. My stomach dropped. Yes, sir. He nodded slowly. She also tells me you were very important to her, that ending things with you was one of the biggest mistakes she's ever made. I didn't know what to say to that. With all due respect, sir, that's between Angela and me. He smiled slightly. Fair enough. But I'm not just her father, Travis. I'm your business partner. And I need to know if this is going to be a problem. It won't be. You sure about that? I met his eyes. I'm here to work. Whatever happened between Angela and me is in the past. He leaned back in his chair, still watching me. She's unhappy, he said quietly. Has been for years. I thought Marcus would be good for her. Stable. From the right family. Everything I wanted for her. He paused. But she doesn't love him. That's not my problem, I said, keeping my voice even. Isn't it? The question caught me off guard. Mr. Thompson stood and walked to the window, hands in his pockets. I was wrong about you, he said. 3 years ago, if I'd known my daughter was dating someone like you, I would have put a stop to it immediately. Would have thought you were just some kid trying to use her for her money. He turned to face me. But you've proven me wrong. You built something real. You didn't need her or her family or anything I could have given you. You did it on your own. He smiled. That's the kind of man I want in my family. I felt the blood drain from my face. Sir, I don't think. Hear me out, he interrupted. I'm not saying you have to do anything. But Angela is miserable. Marcus is a good man, but he's not the right man. And I think you know that. This conversation was veering into territory I wasn't prepared for. With respect, sir. Angela made her choice. She chose money and status over me. I can't just forget that. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to consider that maybe she was young and scared and made a mistake. A mistake that destroyed me. The words came out harsher than I intended. Mr. Thompson's expression softened. I know. And I'm sorry for my part in that. Sorry for raising her in a world where she felt like love wasn't enough. He walked back to his desk and sat down. All I'm asking is that you think about it. That's all. The meeting ended shortly after, but his words stayed with me. I tried to focus on work, but Angela was everywhere. In meetings with her father. At company events. Always with Marcus, always looking miserable. And every time our eyes met, I saw that same desperate look. The one that said, "Please don't give up on me." It was Harry who finally confronted me about it. We were working late one night, going over quarterly projections, when he suddenly closed his laptop and said, "We need to talk." About what? About the fact that you've been a zombie for 3 weeks. I'm fine. You're not fine. You haven't been fine since the party. He leaned back in his chair. Look, I know what Angela did to you. I was there. I saw what it did to you. But you need to figure out what you want because this half-life you're living isn't working. I don't want anything from her. Liar. I glared at him. He held up his hands. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, if you want her back, go get her. If you don't, then actually move on. But stop torturing yourself. It's not that simple. It never is. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Mr. Thompson had said. About mistakes and second chances and whether love was ever really enough. Angela had hurt me. Had chosen money and status over what we had. But I'd also spent 3 years becoming someone different. Someone who didn't need her approval or her father's acceptance. Someone who could walk away. The question was whether I wanted to. My phone buzzed around 2 a.m. Another message from an unknown number. Angela must have gotten a new phone. The message said, I know you hate me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know that not a single day has gone by where I haven't regretted what I did. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it away because I was scared and stupid and wrong. I don't expect you to take me back. I just need you to know that I'm sorry. That I loved you. That I still love you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I did something I'd been avoiding for 3 years. I let myself remember the good parts. The late-night study sessions where we'd end up talking until dawn. The way she laughed at my terrible jokes. The way she looked at me like I was the only person who mattered. The way I felt when I was with her, like I could do anything. Before money and expectations and reality got in the way. Maybe Mr. Thompson was right. Maybe she had been young and scared. Maybe I had been too. I typed out a response. Then deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, I just wrote, "We need to talk. Tomorrow. My office." Her response came within seconds. Okay. Thank you. I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow. I'd find out if second chances were real. Or if some things were just too broken to fix. Angela arrived at my office exactly at noon, wearing a simple black dress and minimal makeup. She looked nervous. Vulnerable. Nothing like the confident woman I'd seen at the party. She sat down across from my desk. Hands folded in her lap. "Thank you for seeing me," she said quietly. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak yet. For a long moment, we just sat there in silence. Then she said, "I don't know where to start." "Start with the truth." She took a deep breath. "The truth is I was a coward. My whole life. I was told that love wasn't enough. That I needed to marry someone from the right family. Someone who could maintain our status. My father drilled it into me from the time I was young." She looked up at me. "But then I met you, and for the first time, I didn't care about any of that. You made me feel like I could just be myself. Like I didn't have to perform or pretend or live up to impossible expectations. So what changed?" She swallowed hard. "My father found out about us. Near the end of our junior year. One of his colleagues saw us together and mentioned it to him. He was furious. Said I was throwing my life away on someone who would never be able to provide for me. I felt anger rising in my chest. So you let him control you?" "No. I mean, yes, but it wasn't just that. He threatened to cut me off completely. Said if I stayed with you, I'd be on my own. No money. No support. Nothing. And you couldn't handle that. Her eyes filled with tears. I was terrified. I'd never had to take care of myself, never had to worry about money or where I'd live or how I'd survive, and I knew you were struggling. I knew you couldn't support both of us. I thought I'd just drag you down. So instead of trusting me, you left. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't undo the pain I caused, but I need you to understand that it wasn't because I didn't love you. It was because I was weak. I stood up and walked to the window, needing distance. Do you know what the worst part was? I asked. It wasn't that you left. It was that you made me feel like I wasn't enough. Like everything I was, everything I could be, didn't matter because I didn't have money. That's not true. Then why did you say it? Why did you tell me you needed someone who could give you the life you were used to? Because I was trying to convince myself. She was crying now, not trying to hide it anymore. I was trying to make it hurt less. If I could make it about money, about practicality, then maybe I could live with it. But it didn't work. Every day with Marcus, I thought about you. Every time he bought me something expensive, I remembered when you saved up for weeks just to take me to dinner. Every time we went to some fancy event, I wished I was in your tiny apartment watching old movies instead. Then why stay with him? Because by the time I realized I'd made a mistake, you were gone. You'd blocked me, moved on. And I thought, maybe it's better this way. Maybe you'll find someone who deserves you. She stood up and walked toward me. But then I saw you at the party. Saw what you'd become. And I realized you didn't need me to believe in you. You believed in yourself. And that's what I should have done from the start. I turned to face her. You broke me, Angela. You took everything I felt for you and made it feel worthless. I know. I spent 3 years trying to prove I was good enough. Trying to become someone you'd regret leaving. And you did. You became everything I knew you could be. She reached for my hand, and this time I didn't pull away. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to want me back. But I need you to know that you were never not enough. I was the one who wasn't enough. I wasn't brave enough. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't enough for you. Her words hung in the air between us. Part of me wanted to pull her close. Wanted to tell her that I'd never stopped loving her, that every success I'd achieved was hollow because she wasn't there to share it. But another part remembered the pain. Remembered lying awake at night wondering what was wrong with me. Remembered watching her choose someone else. Marcus, I said, what about him? She wiped at her tears. I'm going to end it. I should have done it years ago. He deserves someone who actually loves him. And your father? She laughed bitterly. My father adores you. Do you know he talks about you constantly? About how impressed he is with your work ethic and vision. It's ironic. 3 years ago, you weren't good enough. Now you're exactly what he wants for me. That doesn't bother you. It does. But not as much as losing you bothered me. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, the same one she used to wear. Travis, I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know I hurt you in ways that might never heal. But if there's any part of you that still feels something for me, I'm asking you to let me try. Let me prove that I'm not that scared girl anymore. Let me show you that I can be brave enough for both of us. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the girl I'd fallen for. The one who stayed up all night studying with me. The one who laughed at stupid jokes. The one who made me believe I could be more than I was. But I also saw the woman who'd walked away. Who'd chosen comfort over love. Who'd made me feel like I'd never be enough. I need time, I said finally. Okay. I need to figure out if I can forgive you. If I can trust you again. I understand. And you need to figure out if you can actually handle this. Because I'm not changing who I am. I'm not going to pretend to fit into your world. If we do this, we do it, my way. She nodded. Your way. I promise. Before I could respond, my office door opened. Marcus stood there, face red, clearly furious. So this is where you've been, he said to Angela. I should have known. Marcus. This isn't. Don't. He held up a hand. I'm not stupid, Angela. I've known for months that you're still in love with him. He looked at me. Congratulations. You win. You get the girl and the career and everything you wanted. That's not what this is, I started. Isn't it? He laughed bitterly. You spent 3 years building yourself into someone good enough for her. Well, you succeeded. I hope it was worth it. He turned and walked out. Angela moved to go after him, but I caught her arm. Let him go. She looked at me, conflicted. I need to at least apologize. Later. Right now, I need to know something. What? If I hadn't become successful, if I was still that broke kid from college, would you be here right now? The question clearly hurt her, but she didn't look away. I don't know, she said honestly. I want to say yes. I want to believe that I would have found the courage eventually. But I can't promise that. At least it was honest. But I can promise this, she continued. From now on, I'm choosing you. Not because of what you have or who you've become, but because losing you taught me that nothing else matters. She took both my hands. I love you, Travis. I've loved you since we were 19 years old sitting in a library at 2 in the morning. I loved you when I walked away. I loved you every day in between. And I'll love you for the rest of my life if you'll let me. My chest felt tight. For 3 years, I'd imagined this moment. Imagined her coming back. Begging for forgiveness. Realizing what she'd lost. But now that it was happening, I didn't feel the satisfaction I'd expected. I just felt tired. Tired of being angry. Tired of pretending I'd moved on. Tired of carrying around pain that was slowly eating me alive. Maybe Harry was right. Maybe it was time to decide. Fight for her or let her go. Actually move on or give second chances a try. I pulled her closer, close enough that our foreheads touched. If we do this, I said quietly, we do it right. No secrets. No running when things get hard. No letting other people make our decisions. Okay. And you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that you'll never make me feel like I'm not enough again. Because I can handle a lot, Angela. But I can't handle that. Her hands came up to cup my face. I promise, she whispered. You've always been enough. More than enough. Then she kissed me. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could breathe. The next few months were complicated. Angela broke up with Marcus properly, returned his ring, apologized for the time she'd wasted. He took it better than expected, said he'd known for a while that her heart wasn't in it. Mr. Thompson was thrilled when we told him Angela and I were trying again. He shook my hand and said, I knew you were smart. Work continued at Thompson Industries. Harry and I kept building, kept growing, kept proving that we belonged at this level. But things between Angela and me weren't easy. There was history. Pain. Trust that needed rebuilding. We started slow. Coffee dates. Dinners. Conversations that lasted until 3 in the morning where we talked through everything that had happened. She told me about the years with Marcus. How empty she'd felt. How she'd gone through the motions of a relationship without ever being present. I told her about the months after our breakup. How I'd fallen apart. How work became my only escape. How I'd convinced myself I hated her because it hurt less than admitting I still loved her. Slowly, carefully, we found our way back to each other. But there were hard moments too. Times when something small would trigger old wounds. When I'd see her look at an expensive restaurant menu and wonder if she was thinking about money. When she'd see me working late and wonder if I was avoiding her. We fought about it. More than once. One night, about 4 months in, we had our worst fight yet. We were at my apartment, supposed to be having dinner, but instead we were standing in my kitchen yelling at each other. You still don't trust me, she said, tears streaming down her face. Can you blame me? It's been months, Travis. How long are you going to punish me? I'm not punishing you. I'm trying to protect myself. From what? From me choosing you every single day. From me proving over and over that I'm not going anywhere. Words don't mean anything, Angela. You said you loved me before too. Then you left. That hit her like a slap. She stood there, shaking, looking at me like I'd broken something irreparable. Then she said quietly, if you can't forgive me, then we need to stop this, because I can't keep loving someone who's waiting for me to leave. I'm not. Yes. You are. Every time we're together, I can see it in your eyes. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Waiting for me to prove you right. She grabbed her purse. I love you. I will always love you. But I can't fix this by myself. You need to decide if you can actually forgive me or if we're just torturing each other. Then she left. I stood there in my empty apartment, surrounded by all the things I'd worked so hard for, and realized none of it mattered. Not the success. Not the money. Not the revenge I'd fantasized about. None of it meant anything without her. I called Harry. He answered on the second ring, sounding half asleep. This better be important. I messed up. He sighed. What did you do? I told him everything. The fight. The things I'd said. The look on Angela's face when I'd essentially told her I didn't trust her. So go fix it, he said. What if I can't? Then you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what if. Is that what you want? No. Then stop being an idiot and go get your girl." He hung up. I grabbed my keys and drove to Angela's apartment. It was past midnight. I knocked on her door until she answered. She looked like she'd been crying. "Travis, it's late." I know. But I need to say this." She didn't invite me in, but she didn't close the door either. I took a deep breath. "You're right. I've been punishing you. I've been holding on to the pain because I was scared that if I let it go, I'd get hurt again." She wrapped her arms around herself. "But the truth is," I said, "I'm hurting more by pushing you away. I spent 3 years trying to get over you, and I couldn't. Because you're it for me, Angela. You always have been." Tears started running down her face. "I forgive you," I said. "I forgive you for leaving. I forgive you for being scared. I forgive you for all of it. Because the alternative is living without you. And I can't do that anymore. Travis. I'm not saying it won't be hard. I'm not saying I won't have moments where the old hurt comes back. But I'm willing to work through it if you are. I'm willing to build something new with you." She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. "I'm willing," she whispered. "I'm so willing." We stood there in her doorway, holding each other, and it felt like coming home. The next year was the best of my life. Angela and I moved in together. We traveled. We built a life that was ours, not dictated by her father's expectations or my need to prove myself. She went back to school to finish her art history degree, something she'd always wanted to do. I supported her completely, just like she supported me when Harry and I decided to launch a second startup. We fought sometimes. Had bad days. Moments where old insecurities crept in. But we worked through them. Together. On our 2-year anniversary of getting back together, I took her to the same cheap noodle shop where we used to eat in college. She laughed when she realized where we were. Seriously. We ordered our old favorites and sat in a corner booth, and it felt like no time had passed at all. Except everything had changed. After dinner, I walked her to the library where we'd first met. It was late. The building was closed. But I'd gotten special permission from the dean to get in. We sat at the same table where we'd studied together all those years ago. Angela looked around, smiling. "This is where it all started," she said. I reached across the table and took her hand. "And this is where it begins again." I pulled out a small box. Her eyes widened. "Travis." "Angela," I said, "you were my first love. My only love. I spent years trying to get over you and years trying to get you back. And now that I have you, I never want to let you go again." I opened the box. The ring inside was simple. Elegant. Nothing like the massive diamonds Marcus would have given her. But it was real. And it was us. "Marry me," I said. "Not because of money or status or anyone else's expectations. Marry me, because you love me and I love you, and that's all that matters." She was crying. "Yes," she said. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." I slipped the ring on her finger, and she kissed me like it was the first time all over again. 6 months later, we got married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Mr. Thompson walked her down the aisle, tears in his eyes. Harry was my best man, giving a speech about how I'd been insufferable for 3 years and he was glad I finally got the girl so he could stop hearing about it. My mother cried the entire ceremony, happy tears, telling everyone who would listen that she'd always known we'd end up together. And Angela, in a simple white dress with flowers in her hair, looked at me like I was everything she'd ever wanted. We said our vows under an oak tree in her parents' garden. I promised to love her. To choose her. To never make her feel like she had to be anyone other than who she was. She promised the same. And when the officiant said "You may kiss the bride," I pulled her close and kissed her like my life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. Later, at the reception, Mr. Thompson pulled me aside. "I was wrong about you," he said. "I judged you for what you didn't have instead of seeing what you did have. And I'm sorry for that." I shook his hand. "You helped me build something," I said. "I'll always be grateful for that." He smiled. "You built it yourself. I just gave you the platform." We watched Angela dance with Harry, both of them laughing. "She's happy," Mr. Thompson said. "Happier than I've ever seen her. She makes me happy too. That's all a father can ask for." That night, Angela and I left the reception early, drove to the same beach where I'd driven her years ago after that Valentine's Day party. We walked along the shore. Shoes in hand, waves lapping at our feet. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I was so stupid," she said. "I almost lost you. But you didn't. I came so close though. If you hadn't become successful, if my father hadn't brought you into the company, I might never have gotten the chance to make things right. I stopped walking and turned to face her. Then I guess we're lucky. She smiled. The luckiest. I pulled her close, and we stood there under the stars, exactly where we were always meant to be. 3 years ago, Angela had left me because she didn't think love was enough. She'd been wrong. Love wasn't everything, but it was the foundation. And with that foundation, we could build anything. She'd come back. She'd chosen me. And this time, neither of us was going anywhere. I kissed her, tasting salt air and possibility. Ready to go home? I asked. She laced her fingers through mine. With you? Always. We walked back to the car, leaving footprints in the sand that the tide would wash away. But what we built together, that was permanent. That was real. That was everything.